Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are very excited to have you here with us, and on behalf of the LivingWell team, I want to welcome you at our center. We have a special seminar today, and a special guest presenting a very interesting subject. We will learn more about sleep and why sleep is important. So, I also have a short announcement. At the reception, you can get a 15% off for your first massage. At our center we also offer massages, and so just be aware that you can still use this until the 30th of November, and you can take as many as you'd like and share it with your friends and family. So without further ado, I want to welcome our speaker, Dr. Violeta, who will hopefully teach us a little bit about sleep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for joining us this evening. As you know, LivingWell Center wants to promote a healthy lifestyle. So healthy eating, exercise, relaxation, sleep, good sleep. So this evening we'll talk about sleep. But before I will start talking more about sleep, I was wondering, how important do you think is sleep for us?
Essential.
Essential. Or do you think it's more important than any other health principles that I just mentioned? Food, exercise, relaxation, mind.
But I think the most important is the quality of the sleep, no matter how many hours, because some people might sleep less than the others, but the quality should be good.
That's a good point. We'll touch that point this evening too. I'm going to start with sharing a personal experience. While I was a student, I was working and studying in the same time, and I was working as a social worker. So I was visiting families with social and health problems, and one of the feared disease that we had visiting these families were tuberculosis. So when I had to do my practice of infectious diseases and the infectious department and learn more about the tuberculosis, I had the chance to ask my professor, what can I do to improve to protect myself, not to improve, but to protect myself, to don't get sick, because taking into account my lifestyle at that moment, working too much, studying a lot, so being young and not taking care of too many things. So I wanted to know what could I do, and I need to be honest that his answer surprised me. He was a very simple answer, and he said, well, sleep well and enough. Food is important, but sleep is even more important. I was a bit surprised, because I thought, use some supplements, use some protection measures or hygiene rules or whatever. But no, this was his answer. Very short and nothing more than that. So here I am talking today about sleep. And while preparing this presentation, I found this representation. It's difficult to see. It's a pity that we cannot see it bigger. But actually, there are two kind of charts. One it talks about a lifespan of 78 years, and this is this one. One talks about 79 years a lifespan. So what wants to say, they calculate it. I don't know how they calculate, because I tried to calculate myself a bit and I didn't get there. I didn't follow their logic. So they calculated how many hours do we sleep in total in a lifetime of 70 years old. So they came out with the fact that we sleep about 28.3 years, and also we spend about 7 years trying to get to sleep. So in total about 35 years sleep opportunity they talk about and lifetime. But in the same time, they are only 10.5 years of working. I don't know how they got there with 10 years and a half working. 9 years looking at screens, computers, TV, more devices. And we spend about 4.5 years just eating and drinking. And there's so much time for committing, just moving around from work to jobs and studying. But from all of this, you see there a question mark, and that talks about 9 years when we can do whatever we want. There's no pressure or social pressure in a way or another. So I thought that's interesting to look at it. On a daily basis, how many hours do you sleep? 5 hours, 3 hours, 8 hours?
No, the average is 5 hours.
5 hours. Yeah.
7.5.
7 to 8. And how important do you think it's your daily sleep?
Very important.
If you give a score from 0 to 10, how much would you give?
About the importance, so a score for the importance we give to the
You give for your own sleep.
my own sleep.
Yeah, maybe I should be more specific. Yeah, to your own sleep. Which importance do you give? Which score would you give?
Okay, it's not a score to measure my sleep.
No, the importance you give to your own sleep, not to measure your sleep or quality of sleep, but you say, okay, you said you sleep about 5 hours, so that means that you give importance to other things, prioritize in your life other things, and you spend only 5 hours you spend 5 hours to sleep.
No, it's not a decision. It's a fact.
It's a fact, yeah.
So I would love to sleep more.
More, yeah.
But I can't.
So that's a question. How important do you think it's your sleep?
Super important.
Super important. Okay. So then it's 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
Yes.
Okay. Probably you realize that we live in a society that actually considers sleep time as a waste of time.
Yes.
And we have time for all kind of things, work, kids, devices, peer pressure, whatever. And we would like to have a day work of 48 or 72 hours instead of 24. I am one of them. So I wish that my day would be longer than 24 hours, but that's the way it is. It's 24 hours. Taking into account these things, I would like to start talking a little bit more about sleep itself. Our brain cells communicate a lot with each other via electrical impulses. It's actually a very complex mechanism, and it's very still unknown. And we measure activity of our brain cells with a so-called electroencephalogram. An electroencephalogram is a device who is used to measure the electrical activity, but is also used for diagnosis. So, in certain diseases, we know today that certain waves, they are typical for certain diseases like epilepsy, for example. It's very easily to measure that, but it's also used in research. And the researchers, they classified our sleep in two groups, two major states, and so-called REM sleep and non-REM sleep. REM sleep comes from rapid eye movement, and non-REM from non-rapid eye movement. What wants to say is that REM means while we're sleeping, our eyes are moving, and most of the time is an horizontal moving, but sometimes it's also vertical or sideways, but mostly it's horizontal. So during a normal night, the sleep process is cycle, and our body and brain goes through a 4 to 6 times average of 90-minute cycle. Each cycle contains 4 stages, and it is a constant flip-flop from non-REM to REM sleep in these 90 minutes. But they noticed, the researchers, they noticed that in the first part of the night, we consume more, we are having more deep non-REM sleep and very little REM sleep. And the other part of the second part of the night sleep, we are having the REM sleep. The non-REM is classified in 3 groups. The deep sleep, so I should start with the beginning of the first phase, then the light sleep, and then the deep sleep, non-REM. And this is, it seems that the non-REM sleep takes care that we regenerate mentally and physically. Our muscles, our body regenerates more in this period of sleep. And in the period of REM sleep, we regenerate more, is the emotional part of our body that regenerates better. But you would think that if you would sleep 5 hours instead of 8 hours, and you would think that, okay, you start with a non-REM and you go to REM. It doesn't seem to be like that. So if you go to sleep at 12 o'clock at night and you wake up at 6 o'clock, that means you lose 25% of your REM sleep. No, you lose 25% of your sleep, of your entire sleep. But you actually lose 60 to 90% of your REM sleep. So you're going to be too short, and the regenerated sleep, who takes care of the mostly emotional part of your sleep. At the same time, if you go to bed at 4 a.m. and you get up at 10 a.m., you're going to lose a lot of your non-REM sleep, and you get more and REM sleep. So it's amazing how complicated it is, and how and even the researchers, they don't understand completely why, what, and how this process goes. So they know certain things very well, but why this way and not this, why this changing, and why so cycle, and not like you have a program and then you say, okay, I sleep 5 hours, but I get my non-REM and I get my REM sleep too. Doesn't seem to be that way. So what happens while we're sleeping and the REM, non-REM stage 1 sleep, this is so the most superficial part of the non-REM phase, and it takes about between 5 to 10 minutes, and we have a light sleep. It's a transition period between the wakefulness and sleep. The muscle activity slows down and you can easily wake up. The second stage, non-REM, it takes longer, it's about 20 minutes, and body temperature and heart rates start slowing down, so drops, body temperature drops and heart rate slows down. But in the same time, they notice some sleep spindles, kind of short burst of brain activity, which they don't know why and what is the role of this exactly. The third phase of non-REM sleep is it takes between 20 and 40 minutes, is the deep sleep or the deep non-REM sleep, and it's most restorative sleep in this time. The blood pressure and breathing rate drops, and the muscle relax so much, and in this period our immune system gets regenerated, improves. So if you get less of less of deep sleep, so you'll have problem with your immunity, so you get easily sick. The fourth stage of sleep, the REM sleep, occurs at the end of these 90 minutes. In this period we are dreaming, and here we have this rapid eye movement. So my picture is not very good because it should show that it's horizontal, the eye movement. And in this moment the brain becomes very active. It's so active that it's amazing, and at the same time, because we have so active dreams, and in the same time all your muscles, they're blocked. So it's actually, I think of it, the specialist didn't talk in this way about it, but I think it's kind of protection, because you are dreaming so active and so vivid that you could stand up and go and walk through the window, for example. But because your muscles are so relaxed, you're actually in a kind of paralytic state. You don't move, you're immobilized. There are only two groups of muscles that are not immobilized. There are eyes, your eyes muscles, and a muscle in your inner ear. They don't know why. So I think I could convince you that our sleep is very, very complex and metabolically very active, and during the sleep they're happening a lot of activities there. But it looks like no one type is more important than the other, because, as I said, we cannot recuperate. So each phase has its own role and has its own part in repairing and restoring our body, mentally and physically. So the question comes: how many hours should we sleep? And here is a recommendation from the Sleep Foundation. How many hours should we sleep according to our age? So if we are babies, we should sleep between 14 and 17 hours. And as adults, we should sleep between 7 and 9 hours. And older than 65 is 7 to 8 hours. So indeed, as we said, we live in a society then we think that not sleeping enough, of not sleeping, or they say the other way around, sleeping 9 hours, we are considered being lazy. But we see that actually these are the recommendations of the specialist regarding the quality and the quantity of our sleep. But in the same time, so I'm not I'm not a neurologist. I'm not a neurologist. I do see, I work with people, and I notice that 70 to 80% of the people I see every day, they don't sleep enough. It's also become more and more one of my standard questions: how many hours do you sleep? But I also notice, and it's certainly a question when I talk with people who have a depression or burnout, and I notice that actually all of them, minimum 6 months before they crashed, they slept maximum 6 hours per night. And we know that that sleep deprivation, it's linked to several neurodegenerative and psychiatric disorders, and insufficient sleep has significant adverse effects on our body, like cardiovascular system, mood, cognitive problems, diabetes, and I'll talk a little shortly later on about it. But there are different reasons why we don't sleep. So we don't sleep. That's clearly that we live in a society that doesn't sleep enough. So there are different reasons, and I'll go over a few reasons which I think they are most important, or at least the ones I notice in the daily practice, their cause. So I'll start with the coffee, which I think it's the most sensitive subject, because I don't know if you notice what happens in the company if the coffee machine break down. And so it's mostly used in the morning. It's considered a psychoactive stimulant drug because it can alert you and keep you awake. And it is the only psychoactive stimulant that we do give to our children. A lot of people, they say, yeah, I use coffee, but I don't have any problem to fall asleep. And that has to do with the fact that it seems that we are two kind of groups of people. One who has this this gene, and who determines what kind of metabolizer you are. You are a slow metabolizer or a fast metabolizer. A fast metabolizer means that if you drink coffee at 10 o'clock in the evening, you can go to sleep. A slow metabolizer means that you drunk your coffee at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning, but you still have hard time to fall asleep in the evening. But it doesn't matter which kind of metabolizer you are. Each substance that comes in on our body has a so-called half-life. Half-life. What does it mean? It means that substance stays in your body for so long. And a coffee has a half-life of 6 hours, about 6 to 6 hours. And that means that it has a quarter life of 10 to 12 hours. And that means that you can drink a coffee at 12 o'clock, but at 12 o'clock at night, you still have caffeine in your system, in your body, that affects your sleep. Because it seems like caffeine affects your non-REM sleep.
This will affect the non-REM sleep for the person who has this gene, or not specially?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter?
No, doesn't matter. The only thing that makes that gene is that you say, I can drink a coffee at 10 o'clock and at 10:30 I fall asleep. That makes a difference. But doesn't matter what kind of metabolizer you have. If you have that gene or you don't have that gene, the caffeine stays so much in your body.
Really?
Yep. And actually, if you see there, a lot of people, they say, well, I quit drinking coffee, but I drink decaffeinated coffee. It is a little bit of problem here because a decaffeinated coffee is not a non-caffeinated coffee. What does it mean is that different brands, they still have caffeine in their products, so-called decaffeinated coffee. And they can go to up to 20% caffeine in their 100 or whatever they measure, 100 milligrams of coffee. So 1 cup of coffee contains 200 milligrams of caffeine. What we said now, it's also valid for green tea and black tea, and actually also chocolate. I don't know if you know, I was surprised about half a year ago. I was talking with somebody who is from a South American country, and she said to me that they don't, although we import a lot of coffee beans from there, they don't drink coffee. For them, actually, drinking coffee is not seen as a positive thing. And she learned to drink coffee in Europe, but in their country, they don't have the culture of drinking coffee. But we have this here. There are a lot of studies around coffee, caffeine, and I mentioned only this study who's, okay, it's a while ago, but I think it's still important to show that actually if you drink about 5 cups of coffee, that means about 1 gram of caffeine in your body. Some people, they can get serious restlessness, nervosity, irritability. They can even have delirium, emesis, so high tachycardia, so the heart rate goes very fast, increased respiration. So actually these are symptoms of toxic, of a toxicity effects. Another frequent, how they call middle, help me, middle in English.
Substance.
Another substance used to so-called aid to sleep. It's alcohol, but so a lot of people are using alcohol just to calm down and sleep. But it's actually, alcohol is a sedative drug, so it has nothing to do with the sedation is not asleep. So if you drink, you get a little bit sedated, so then you get these relaxed moments, but you don't get a good sleep. And why you don't get a good sleep? It seems that even 1 glass of alcohol, it fragments your sleep. So while you're sleeping, you wake up several times, but you don't notice that you wake up. And then the second day, you woke up and you don't feel good. So what do? You grab 1 or 2 cups of coffee. So this is not a good reason to use alcohol. Another reason is actually worrying. What I hear from people, they have hard time to fall asleep because they are worrying, and they are busy during the day, and they get in bed and they start thinking, what should I do tomorrow? How do I have to solve this problem? And how these things are gonna go. So instead of relaxing and preparing your body to sleep, you actually agitate yourself. You create a status that you cannot fall asleep. I'm sometimes one of these, that I get in bed and I start worrying, and I start talking with my husband, and he says, well, now it's time to sleep, it's not time to talk. And one of his remarks is also, you can't change anything now, so you better sleep and we'll see tomorrow. And that's true. I also use his advice to other people, but the often answer is, it's easy to say but difficult to do. But I still think that we should do an effort in this regard, and I would add here an old advice who says, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has its trouble of its own. So each step at a time. What happens if we don't sleep enough? So a lot of things will fall in place if you get enough sleep, but if you don't, so we can start having problem with our weight. Why? Because it seems like if you don't sleep enough, our body makes a so-called substance ghrelin. It's actually a hormone who actually increases your appetite. And you have the tendency to eat more, 200 to 300 calories per day more than if you would have good sleep. And if you sleep well, then our body makes leptin, which gives you the sensation that you're full, you don't need extra, it's okay. So you don't really solve your problem by eating too much, sleep problem. It's also, it seems to have, if you don't sleep enough and you exercise, you do have a problem with losing, actually, instead of losing fat cells, you lose muscle cells, muscle mass. Because it seems that a body reaction at that moment is, I need to save the fat. it's also no good because you lose muscle mass and you don't lose fat cells if you exercise. It's also shown that if you are physically active and you are sleep deprived, your motivation to exercise drops. Your activity will not be so strong as if you would be well rested, and the exchange between oxygen and carbon dioxide gets worse and increases the risk of more injuries. It's also it's a bit double here because you don't sleep enough, and if you exercise you get some negative effects of it, but if you exercise you can sleep better. So exercise helps you to sleep better, and it is known that sleeping, it's used in top sporters. They are using actually sleep as a legal performance enhancing drug. They sleep at least 12 hours before and after intensive activity. Another thing that I would mention now, but probably also a little bit later, because I'll come across again a little bit, is that if you want a sport before you go to sleep, you better take a warm shower to reduce the core temperature. Otherwise, you get so agitated and you can't really sleep. Cardiovascular problems if we don't sleep enough, that's I think quite well known. But it is also a global experiment of about 1.6 billion people who are across 70 countries, who every year they go through this experiment, and has to do with the daylight savings time change. So, and that data shows that in the spring, when we lose 1 hour of sleep, the heart attacks are increasing with 24%, and in the autumn, when we gain 1 hour of sleep, we see a decrease of heart attacks with 21%. The immunity, yeah, that's also known. I think it's also. There are a lot of studies who are showing this, but I think we all know from our parents, if you don't sleep enough, you're more prone to get a disease, to get a viral infection. And nowadays it's really proven that if we we are sleep deprived, then we make 70% less natural killer cells. And this one of the study I find it interesting is that there are two groups of people, one who slept enough hours and one who were sleeping less than I think 4 hours a night. Yeah. Then both groups were exposed to a viral infection, and it's very clear that the group who slept not enough, they got more. There are more people in that group who got the disease than the ones who slept more enough. Yeah, sleep deprivation and mental health. It looks like if we don't sleep one night and our brain gets scanned, you can see that our brain changed. And the deep emotional center becomes more active, reactive, and amygdala is 60% more reactive. And that explains why people who do not sleep enough are more irritable. And we know that with the children. Everybody knows if the children are getting annoying and crying and reacting a bit weird, we say, yeah, they need to go to sleep. It's their time to rest. But we forget that we have the same problem, and we forget to go to sleep when we start noticing that emotionally we are very irritable. It is clearly a link between sleep problems and depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress syndrome, schizophrenia, suicide. There are lots of studies who are clearly showing that this makes a big impact in these diseases. It looks like if you sleep enough, we create stronger connection in our brain. Another sleep deprivation is diabetes. A link between sleep problems and diabetes is because if we not sleep enough, sleep loss can increase the amount of free fatty cells in the blood. And this reduces the ability of insulin to regulate the blood sugar. Actually, it is shown that a person who sleeps 1 week 6 hours or less per night, if a blood test shows as a pre-diabetic person. It's a clear link also between sleep problems and longevity, and this has to do actually with the REM sleep. It's very, very clearly proven that the shorter you sleep, the shorter your life is.
The life can be more intense because you have more hours to do things, no?
One argument why the shorter the life is because car accidents, for example, and they even showed that a person who doesn't sleep enough, I don't know if I wrote it down here, but I don't know exactly how much hours per night that you sleep, and probably the same 1 week or very short nights. The reactions, your body reactions, they're equivalent to somebody who is drunk and has a high dose of alcohol in the blood. And plus, so you are slower in reactions, you next to this, your coordination problems and so on. And you also have micro sleeps. What is that? That you fell asleep about 2 seconds and you don't notice. You don't notice that you fell asleep. And if it happens that while you're driving, so it's easy to create an accident. And also, if you have a safety function where your attention and vigilance has to be at top, then you can create accidents and problems. Although all this data shows that sleep is very important, people are not aware of the importance of the sleep, and that shows also an enquete in 2017 here in Belgium, when 10% of Belgians believe they get enough sleep, only 10%, and 3/4 of them suffer from insomnia, and 1/3 of the population surveyed admit that they don't do anything to change the situation. And taking account all this impact in the health they estimated that actually the sleep deprivation costs the country about 2% of their GDP. And with that money, we could do a lot of other things. Okay, so we saw what can happen with our body, and I hope I didn't scare you too much this evening. If we don't sleep enough. So what can we do to still get a good night's sleep? And here are some 10 tips, and there exist also 20 tips, but I chose to talk about the 10 tips for a better sleep. It's very important to establish a regular bedtime and working time. So go to sleep at the same time every day, every night, and wake up at the same time, even in the weekend, even if you didn't get a good sleep. And if it happens that once in a while you don't have a good sleep, it's not a tragedy. The problem is the frequency, so that it's takes too long, then it starts becoming a threat for your health. But if it happens that once you don't sleep enough, it's not a big tragedy. If you have the habit to have a siesta and during the day, try to don't exceed more than 45 minutes. Because it interferes with the rest of the day-night cycle. If you try to you fell asleep, if you cannot fall asleep, then instead of laying, if you notice that you are more than 25 minutes in bed, you better stay up and go in another room. Don't stay there. Go in another room, but go in another room where you have a dim light, not strong lights. Don't use devices. Don't watch an action film or read an action book because you get more excited, so you're not calm down. The idea is that you do something that calms you down. So a soft light, calm things. You read something or you listen to read something calm. Listen to calm music. And the moment you notice that you start getting tired to fall asleep, then you go back to bed. Why? Because our brain is a wonderful associate device. He makes a lot of association, and the idea is that you don't learn your brain to associate bedroom with not sleep. Then you create a more vicious circle there. You don't. Another tip is in this moment, don't eat. Don't start eating. Avoid excessive alcohol ingestion at least 4 hours before bedtime. Also avoid caffeine, so 6 hours before bedtime. That includes including coffee, tea, sodas, as well as chocolate. Avoid heavy, spicy or sugar foods, also about 4 hours before bedtime. It's also for your stomach, actually. Okay, they talk about only for what concerns the mind. But I know also a lot of people, they have a lot of stomach problems because they go to sleep with a full stomach, and that creates also a problem there. Exercise regularly. So exercise is actually a very good medication for a lot of. It's good for the mind, it's good for the body, it's good for your heart, it's good for losing weight, it's good for stress. So exercise is actually a wonderful medication, and it's for free. But don't don't exercise before you go to sleep, because you are too active and it's too difficult to calm down to sleep. If you cannot exercise another moment of the day, and you still have to do it, then before you go to sleep, take a long warm shower to decrease the core temperature. And then if your core temperature is down, then you can fall asleep easier. Use comfortable, inviting bedding. So switch off all your devices from the bedroom. Find a comfortable sleep temperature, and recommended temperature is 18 degrees. And block all distracting noises and eliminate as much as possible the lights. So a lot of people, they have problems with lights or noise or both. In this case, it's best that you use earplugs or use curtains that blocks the light from the street. And so try to create a dark environment. Why? Because our body works in cycles. So we have a day cycle and a night cycle. The dark is linked to the melatonin, but melatonin is also linked to serotonin. And melatonin is the sleep hormone, serotonin is the activity hormone. So if you have less melatonin, then you have also less serotonin, and the other way around. The serotonin is actually stimulated by the daylight and the morning light. That's why ideal would be to stay early in the morning to expose yourself to the daylight, the light of the sun. But in Belgium, we have sometimes a big problem with this. And it is a solution for that, as an artificial solution, that works also very well is exposure to blue light. There are devices that creates blue light, so in the first 10 minutes you are awake, you can expose yourself for 20 minutes, 30 minutes to this light, and then your body makes enough serotonin, you are active, you can, and then your melatonin is also okay, and then you have less of no problem with sleeping. So, and one of the last advices here is to reserve your bed only for sleep and sex, and avoiding using as a workplace of general recreation. So no don't turn your bedroom in a kitchen, cinema, office, whatever. And as I said, try to don't get anxious if you cannot sleep. Tomorrow night is going to be better. I think everything I said, big part of what I said, probably the more scientific part, and I think we know it, we heard it even from little. And I would like to add here 2 quotes from an author who wrote a lot about lifestyle in the year 1800, who says that the importance of regularity in the time for eating and sleeping should not be overlooked. Since the work of building up the body takes place during the hours of rest, it is essential, especially in youth, that sleep should be regular and abundant. And irregular hours for eating and sleeping set the brain a force, so we need to be careful with that. So I think you got the message that we need sleep, and good sound sleep every night. But it looks like a lot of us, we have hard time getting it. And a lot of scientific information I presented to you this evening comes from the most renowned sleep scientist and professor of neuroscience and psychology, Matthew Walker. And I also like to end with his quote, who says, "The best bridge between despair and hope is a good night's sleep." Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you learned something this evening.